Hello there. Are you here in response to the bulletin about my factotum research? Would you believe that the apostles don't know how to create factotums? That was a rhetorical question. The sad truth is that while we apostles can create metal limbs and motors, we cannot replicate the intelligence Sotha Seal gave the factotums. We're also unable to enter the factories where they're created. Why does Lord Set do anything? He's the father of mysteries, after all. Through his silence, curiosity is born. Perhaps he meant for us apostles to figure this one out on our own. And I believe I've finally found a breakthrough with this factotum. Firstly, I already know it is an older, simpler model. You can see the dwarven influences in the skull. An aesthetic blight by today's standards. We apostles see dwarves as a race to scorn, not emulate. This model must predate that thinking. Secondly, unlike other factotums, it openly speaks of its components. Trust me, I've interrogated many of these machines in the name of my research. Perhaps as we reconstruct its mind, it will tell us details about its creation. And thirdly, well, its voice. Factotums are genderless machines, of course, but they all sound distinctly female. This one is the first I've met to have a male voice. I'm not sure what it means, but I am sure I'll find answers as I further my research. Hello there. Are you here in response to the bulletin about my factotum research? Fantastic. Now let me fill you in on the details. I found this factotum head in a junk pile, which isn't too uncommon for the brass fortress. I was intrigued, however, by its strange coloring. I was even more intrigued when it began to speak to me. It gave a repeated message, requesting to find its integral of memory in the mnemonic planisphere. That's where you come in. I need an adventuring sort to journey to the planisphere in order to find this component. Are you still interested? The journey to the mnemonic planisphere is riddled with dangers, so it's best to prepare. Shouldn't be any issues once you head inside, though. My research leads me to believe the integral of memory will resemble a crystal. Would you believe that the apostles don't know how to create factotums? That was a rhetorical question. The sad truth is that while we apostles can create metal limbs and motors, we cannot replicate the intelligence Sotha Seal gave the factotums. We're also unable to enter the factories where they're created. Why does Lord Set do anything? He's the father of mysteries, after all. Through his silence, curiosity is born. Perhaps he meant for us apostles to figure this one out on our own. And I believe I've finally found a breakthrough with this factotum. Firstly, I already know it is an older, simpler model. You can see the dwarven influences in the skull. An aesthetic blight by today's standards. We apostles see dwarves as a race to scorn, not emulate. This model must predate that thinking. Secondly, unlike other factotums, it openly speaks of its components. Trust me, I've interrogated many of these machines in the name of my research. Perhaps as we reconstruct its mind, it will tell us details about its creation. And thirdly, well, its voice. Factotums are genderless machines, of course, but they all sound distinctly female. This one is the first I've met to have a male voice. I'm not sure what it means, but I am sure I'll find answers as I further my research.
It's wondrous, isn't it? Elegant, meticulous, timeless. I once took joy in studying the perfection of this realm, but now every revolution of the great gear only tightens the vice in my chest. Tell me, are you here to unravel Lord Set's mysteries? Then may I impose on you as a fellow seeker. For all my learning, I can think of no escape from my predicament, save one. An experiment performed by one of my order, for which she was cast out from the Clockwork Apostles. I need you to find her. Terere Helladrin was ahead of her time. It was fear that led to her expulsion, not reason. I see that now. Please find her. Tell her I'll make it right if she'll save my life. There is no one among the Order I can turn to. She is my only hope. Terere has been gone a very long time, but her ill-fated experiment created a persistent disorder in the grand schema. Its motions are chaotic, but not entirely unpredictable. Following it may provide some clue to her whereabouts. We were some of Tamriel's best and brightest magi, invited to the Clockwork City by Sothasil to attend his experiments and learn from the greatest mind in creation. We have been left to our own devices for a long time. Order was needed. Regulation. We believed she was meddling with forces that were solely the domain of the Clockwork God. A backward, emotional response one might expect from followers of a less enlightened deity. Destroying her notes and shunning her ideas was shameful. Terere's ambitious experiment resulted in a factotum going haywire. It reduced portions of the brass fortress to shambles before taking its rampage off into the reactor district. We record its movements by analyzing the destruction in its wake. Age Seeker. Too many grains from the hourglass have gathered in this humble body. They've worn its workings so thin. I don't think it will be long before I join the inert. But I'm not ready. There's still so much to see.
Who are you? Give me one good reason why I shouldn't reduce you to dust where you stand. He what? No. Absolutely not. That experiment cost me everything I held dear. I was a fool to try it. Sovor of all people should know that. The only thing I want is to put an end to Bolan's misery. You want to make things right? Help me free his soul from its machine prison. Do that, and maybe, just maybe I'll be willing to entertain this insanity. Remove the Black Soul Gem from his factotum body and return it to me. He'll resist you, and as that machine, Bolan is extremely dangerous. He nearly killed me during his last episode. In the meantime, I'll contact Sovor, but no promises. My lover. When I was still an apostle, he was mortally wounded in an accident, beyond any hope of survival, but I couldn't accept that. I was enlightened, so I saved his life by transferring his spirit into a factotum. Bolan's consciousness took over the factotum, but the experience changed him. He always had a wild, creative mind, and I confined it to a cold, rigid prison. That stifled existence was too much to bear. It drove him mad. More than certain. Every moment that he lingers in that mechanical shell is torture. For both of us. Just don't damage the Black Soul Gem. Honestly, I'm not sure you could. But just be careful. Bolan's moods are unpredictable. In his rare lucid moments, I try to reach out to him. But no matter what I try, I only ever seem to get him worked up into a frenzy. Seeing him like that makes me wish I wouldn't blame him if he killed me. I don't know. I'd like nothing more than to smash it into 1,000 pieces. But there's no guarantee that that would redeem Bolan's soul. I've been so focused on finding and stopping that factotum that I haven't really considered what would come after.
You've returned in one piece! How gleaming! In your absence, I've set up a framework to contain the factotum while we assemble its parts. I'll have you do the honors. Of installing the integral of memory. You heard the head? Insert the crystal into its forehead ridge. And don't worry, you won't break it. Sotha Seal builds his creations to last.
To the left, please. Your left, not mine. Reflecting. Oh, I feel positively spring-loaded now. What a kind, generous apostle you are, which I recall is rather strange. Reflecting. I've come to the conclusion that I have no memory stored of any of my kind who are older, so I conclude that I must be the first. How gleaming. I cannot recall my name, but you may call me Precursor. Of course, let me check my integral of memory. Should be right. Great Sotha Seal in the sanctum! Someone's tampered with my crystalline memory matrix. But wait, something's burned in here. I seem to have left a note for myself. Ahem. Salutations, me. By now you must be wondering what happened to our memory. Dark forces have conspired to corrupt our knowledge of the world. But do not fear. I, the past you, have stored our memory in our other parts. A circumstance I have not accounted for. This is me now, not the message. I recall that my design includes both Dwemer and Clockwork parts. I also recall my blueprint, so I can guide my assembly once you find my parts. Sotha Seal guide you, Apostle. I don't quite understand. I function only to know my Lord Sotha Seal and his apostles. You are not my lord, and thus you must be an apostle. Simple. Do you have an inquiry, or perhaps a task for me, Apostle?
Astounding! The first factotum Sotha Seal created! We simply must complete construction now. The more memory it recalls, the further my research can develop. Council seat, here I come! The precursor mentioned he was made of Clockwork and Dwemer parts. I'd keep an eye out for the former as you travel around Clockwork City, and search Dwemer ruins out in Tamriel for the latter. And of course, I have your reward as promised.
I just want to go home.
Dust aside, the equipment is in good order. We just need the vessel, and we can begin.
Is that them? Have they returned? The world feels so heavy now.
This is dredging up so many unpleasant memories. Please tell me you've managed to show Bolan some measure of peace. That's something at least. I've agreed to attempt my experiment again with Sovar as my subject. He's promised to petition the Order to end my exile if I'm successful, but I couldn't care less about that. I just want this to be over. The truth is, I need Sovar as much as he needs me. I think the only way I can safely extract Bolan's soul from the gem is to offer it something in exchange. Who knows if I'll ever have another willing subject? Can I count on your assistance? I'd like you close at hand in case Sover has a similar reaction to the experiment as Bolin. Throw that switch when you're ready to begin the transfer. I'll keep watch on the equipment from here. It's begun. Now would be the time to play.
I have faith in Lord Set's tenets. Observe, learn, apply. Trust in his grand design.
Yes. It's sublime. This order.
Ifrei, I can feel. Thank you. I can feel.
I think it worked. Please, please let it have worked.
I don't feel myself, but I don't care.
I can't breathe. I don't breathe. Instead, I whir and click. It's not so different. All cogs drive the mechanism. Removing any one from the chain, no matter how small, results in failure. I would no longer exist without the both of you. As promised, I will ensure Terra's reinstatement to the Order. All cogs drive the mechanism. Continue the quest for understanding. It has always been my purpose, and I have never been better suited for it. In this form, I may labor as tirelessly as Lord Set himself. I have never been better. I may never be better. I only regret not undergoing this self-improvement sooner. The Order was faulty in denying Terra's genius. I must correct this error. There is one place where my condition would not be considered unusual. The Asylum Sanctorium. The resident alienists there can best evaluate my psyche. A stable transference will be welcome news. They will need to be convinced of many things. My authenticity, my condition, Terra's reintroduction. Have faith that their flaws will be corrected.
Is it him? Is that really my Bolin, or just what's left? Will he hate me? Will he even recognize me? I can't do this. I can't face him. I know. It's better than not knowing. Always wondering, but thank you for ending this. I need a moment. I don't think Bolin has long. Bolin? Is it you? Speak to me. I need to know it's still you, please.
Terrary? When did we get so old? It's time now, isn't it?
It is. You're free now. I'm sorry for all the pain it caused.
Enough tears, love. We're liable to rust. There. That's the smile.
Did you see? Bolin! It was him. He seemed whole again. Oh yes, he does seem to be coping well, or he's at least more sedate in his insanity. Don't worry, I'll keep watch over him, and make sure he doesn't lapse into some violent fugue. He'd been suffering for so long. I'm glad his passing was a peaceful one. I have to hope that wherever he finds to rest, he's the same beautiful soul I remember. Not the tormented mind I saw in that machine. I'd mostly accepted that there would be no end to my punishment. I don't know that I can believe all this might work out in the end. I'll be watchful, not hopeful, for a while yet. I will try. I haven't had much cause for celebration in a long time. Out of practice. It's going to take some work. Sover seems convinced that the Clockwork Apostles need a mind like mine. I won't hold my breath waiting for them to agree. I'll keep in his company for a while, at least until I'm convinced he's stable. After that, I really can't say. Maybe it's Sovor's faith and Sophaciel's wisdom, or his willingness or understanding of the transition, or maybe he's just better suited to it. Bolin wasn't a Clockwork Apostle, and I made that choice for him. It was a selfish mistake.
I may be simply a novice, but I heard about your exploits since you arrived in the Clockwork City. If you have the inclination, Adjunct Darrow and the Clockwork Apostles could use your help. We'll pay, of course. Adjunct Darrow sent Initiate Favar into the Shadow Cleft to perform a thorough analysis with his perception tabulator. He had some sort of malfunction, though, and left the device behind. Worse, he failed to return at the appointed time. Take this perception tabulator, return to the Shadow Cleft, and perform Favar's analysis. And while you're in there, try to find our poor Initiate. If you require additional details, talk to Adjunct Darrow. You can find him in the Grand Depository.
I shouldn't have let Varia go in there alone. When a Clockwork Apostle discovers an unexplainable phenomenon, it can be a moment of unbounded joy or utter terror. That strange portal over there definitely falls into the second category. Portals aren't a common occurrence in the Clockwork City. When Acolyte Varia and I approached to investigate, I had a sudden urge to leap inside. I was able to resist its pull, but Varia stepped through the portal and hasn't returned. I need to make sure no one else wanders into the portal. But maybe you could go in and find Acolyte Varia. This perception tabulator automatically records whatever you experience and should be able to locate my associate. Take it and use it well. Step into the portal when you're ready. The perception tabulator will locate Varia and lead you back to Clockwork City after you complete your investigation. I'll study the phenomenon from out here and make sure no one else enters the portal. Mysterious? I would say it falls more into the suspicious category, what with the fact that it tried to lure me inside. Anyway, we were patrolling this quadrant of the radius, and when I noticed the portal out of the corner of my eye. That's just one of the technological instruments used by the Clockwork Apostles to conduct research and perform experiments throughout the Clockwork City. I'm sure its recording capabilities will work splendidly in wherever that portal leads to. You doubt my credentials? I have served as a scholar and priest of Sothasil for a long time. The temporal currents flow somewhat more haphazardly here than they do in Tamriel. We can discuss this more after you find Varia. Acolyte Varia can be rash, but she's as devoted to the Clockwork City as I am. I can't say if she was compelled by the same impulse that assaulted me, or if she truly wanted to see what was on the other side. You must find her, please.
Feels like I've been protecting this field for hundreds of years. But I'm certain I just entered this realm a day or so ago. What an odd question. I spotted a portal that should not have been there, and I entered it to see where it led. I determined that this shadow cleft is part of the Everglow. How I wound up trapped in a scarecrow, well, that's still somewhat hazy. You've never heard of the Everglow? It's the Oblivion realm that belongs to Nocturnal, the Night Mistress. I'm sure this shadow cleft represents some sort of attack on the Clockwork City, but there's only so much I can determine in my current state. I see you have one of our perception tabulators. Continue your investigation and make sure that device gets into the hands of a Clockwork Apostle. Be careful. If you end up infused with a scarecrow, then everything you learn will be lost.
How dare you interrupt my vigil? What nonsense impels you to such a rash and impetuous action? You dare question the sacred duty that has been placed before me? I'll have you know What am I doing here? What is this place? I remember coming to the Clockwork City when a teleportation ritual went awry. I was looking for a way out when I noticed a strange portal appear in the radius. It called to me. Next thing I know, I'm standing guard over this empty field. I remember that you interrupted my vigil. If my attention wavers for even a moment, those crows will take advantage and strip this field to the ground. Leave me! There are secrets in the dark and the night is here!
The Great Gear turns in my favor for a change. You have a perception tabulator. Did Adjunct Darrow send you to find me? Of course he did. Listen carefully, and there might still be time to realign this befouled contraption. That should be the least of your concerns. If you don't do exactly what I tell you, you'll end up like me. Then who will protect the Clockwork City from this Oblivion infestation? You need to destroy the Shadow Array. Some foul device that Night Sister Chimera uses to lure people into the Shadow Cleft and bind them to these scarecrows. If you can destroy it, we'll be set free. Without the Shadow Array, Nocturnal's plans will be set back or even foiled completely. Not so loud. Nocturnal has ears everywhere. She's one of the Daedric princes. They aren't supposed to be able to breach the Clockwork City's defenses, but nothing works properly anymore. Hurry! You must destroy the Shadow Array! You did well. Now return to the Clockwork City and let Darrow know what you learned.
You returned! I must admit, I wasn't sure you'd be able to do that. Do you have the perception tabulator? And what of Acolyte Varia? Were you able to locate her in there? Dead? Shadow Array? I suppose the perception tabulator will explain everything. I'll study it right away. In the meantime, take this. A little something for helping the Clockwork Apostles today.
This year, he'll select me for sure. I can feel the gears rotating in my direction. Welcome, friend. Come, join our celebration on this glorious and special day. Today is the day that Lector Naril declares a new apprentice. I've improved my botanical knowledge and skills considerably since the selection day last year. I hope he sees how much I can help him in his work. The Everwound Wellspring, a wondrous oasis in this mechanical desert. Sotha Seal created the place, but the Lector made plants grow in the metallic soil. Once every year, he distributes food and chooses an apprentice. You should come with me and see. In the past, the wellspring was accessible to everyone. Lector Narl sealed the place and started the tradition of the annual harvest and apprentice selection. Oh no, so many hopefuls. The gears just have to align in my favor. They have to.
Faithful of Sotha Seal, you may enter to collect this year's harvest in a moment, but first, I shall name my new apprentice. Sherazar, the Everwound Wellspring welcomes you as its new apprentice. The rest of you, come in and claim your portion of the harvest.
Thank the great gear. Let's go inside.
Totems will continue to gather the harvest and bring the containers here. In the meantime, use the lift and come see our oasis. I always share a few words of advice with the hopefuls that weren't selected before I take the new apprentice under my wing. The Everwound Wellspring provides excellent opportunities for the novice apostles. You must be one of the new arrivals I've heard so much about. Everything in the Clockwork City, the soil, the flora, the fauna, it's all composed of gears and pistons and metal. It's like that everywhere. Everywhere, that is, except here. Because Sotha Seal set the wellspring in this metallic desert and blessed it with a reservoir of water. An exceedingly rare thing in the Clockwork City. He planned to create an oasis, but moved on to other projects before the task was done. We had water and a pressing need. It didn't take me long to figure out how to make actual living plants grow in this artificial soil. Now, save your questions and let me show you some of the wonders of the ever-wound wellspring. Come, everyone! Follow me into the viewing garden. My friends, the wellspring enjoyed a bountiful harvest. Let me show you how we accomplish our miracles. Simulated sunlight allows our trees to produce fruit sweeter than the orchards of Vardenfell. These pipes carry an alchemical solution that nourishes our plants. Factotums harvest the plants and pack them in special containers to keep them fresh before we distribute them to Clockwork City. We take clippings from the most robust plants to produce stronger varieties. Someday, we'll be able to grow plants outside these walls. Every season, we share our bounty and select a new apprentice from among the novice apostles. By the way, where did my new apprentice wander off to? My new apprentice, Sherazar. Where did she disappear to? Oh, she's off to a bad start. A very bad start. And have two novices wandering around the oasis unsupervised? Very well. Go find Sherazar and return to me with all due haste. Quickly now, the work of the wellspring can't wait for an idle apprentice. That's a complicated subject, and one better left to the actual apprentices. Suffice it to say that the process involves water treated with alchemical nutrients and other solutions, as well as our simulated sunlight. That would require an even more complicated answer. Suffice it to say that we use lenses, crystals, and a unique power source to create life-giving light similar to Nirn's sun. But without the apprentices, none of this would be possible. My program provides an opportunity to work outside the Clockwork Basilica, lets them try their hand at something different. Besides, keeping the wellspring going requires a lot of bodies. You'd be surprised at what's required to make my plants grow.
This was supposed to be a special day, but it turned out all wrong. There's something not right with this oasis. Sometimes a gear slips or a cylinder throws a piston. This place reminds me of that. Specifically, I saw my old friend Shirhari down one of the corridors. When I tried to go talk to her, the factotums blocked my path. They drove me off. That's the question, isn't it? And it's the reason I have a bad feeling all of a sudden. Why restrict where an apprentice can go? And why refuse to let me talk to Shirhari? It makes no sense. No, I'd rather speak to Shirhari. I know her. I trust her. Lector Naril? He's still a stranger to me. Will you help me get past the factotum so I can talk to my old friend?
Sherizar! Oh, this one purrs at the sight of you.
It's so good to see you too, Shirhari.
You shouldn't wander the wellspring unsupervised. It's dangerous. The factotums don't respond well to visitors they haven't been formulated to recognize. And the fabricants, they're just mean. A new apprentice? Really? But what does Shirhari know of such things? This one works in the dark and grows fungi, molds, and mosses. The lector keeps me too busy for other concerns. Shirhari doubts there's anything sinister going on, so the seal blessed the wellspring with water, and Lector Naril's alchemical solutions make it possible to grow plants. It's good to see Sherizar, though. We could use the help. Apprentice? Sherizar is the first new apprentice to enter the wellspring in years. The lector stopped selecting apprentices after poor Gathal's accident. At least, that's how this one understands things. I suppose Adrono might know differently. Adrono works with Shihari. He attempts to grow non-fungal plant life in harsh conditions. Since you're going to speak to him, could you bring along some of my mushrooms? But not the poisonous ones. He hates those. Idrono will be grateful for the fungi samples, even if he seems agitated. He gets that way during the harvest. Make sure to bring him safe ones, though. My notes can help you identify the various types we grow. No. Only the lector can do such things. But perhaps this one has the next best thing. My plaque of safe passage. As long as you carry it, the factotums should leave you alone. Take it. It won't stop fabricants, however, so be wary of those beasts. Shirhari will be fine. There is much to do right here, and the factotums are formulated to recognize me. The plaque is a precaution, for the most part. This one will get another one before the next work cycle begins.
A new apprentice? How curious. And are those samples of Shirhari's mushrooms? Excellent. I've been anxious to taste the new harvest. Texture similar to guar hide. Flavor equivalent to wet moss. Not what I hoped for. Interesting question. As far as I know, no new apprentices have entered the wellspring since Gathal's accident. But I have a bigger concern. At least Shirhari can grow mushrooms. My plants refuse to live no matter what I do. Of course, Lector Narl tasked each of us with a different experiment. I'm attempting to grow plants without the benefit of the simulated sunlight. I haven't had any success so far, but someone has to tackle the difficult experiments, I suppose. Lector Narl developed it using techniques he still refuses to share. The simulated sunlight provides nourishing energy that makes most of the plants we grow thrive. Not my plants, mind you. Oh, no, that would ruin the experiment. Otowen's been with Lectinarl the longest. She might know something more. You'll need to cross my garden to reach her. Just watch out for the blasted fabricants. They keep eating my plants and clogging up the gears. I just don't understand why my plants won't grow while Shihari and Otowen have no trouble making things bloom. It's an absolute annoyance. And so are those fabricants. Feel free to smash them to bits on your way through the garden. What's to tell? Gathal died. Happened in Lectinarl's private workshop. We're not allowed in there anymore. Now let me think. I need to figure out how to make my plants do something. Anything other than wither and die.
New apprentice, if you can hear my voice, step to the nearest speaking tube this instant. This is Lectinarl talking to you through this speaking tube. I had such high hopes for you, Sherazar. Why do you defy me? I see. And does this have to do with the endeavors of the Wellspring? I suppose I can't fault you for your initiative and willingness to get right to work. I just wish you would have waited before you presented yourselves to my other apprentices. Prohibited? That's a harsh word. No, we don't have any restrictions in the Wellspring. But Sherazar will have a better understanding of how things work here once she returns to me and completes her orientation and training. Did he? My workshop isn't restricted. It's just private. You must see the necessity for a space of my own. No matter. Finish your task and we can discuss this in more detail. I have impressive plans for you and my new apprentice.
Interruptions are counterproductive. The seventh law of gears teaches us that. Well, since you've already distracted me, you might as well tell me what you want. Idrono. His experiment was doomed from the beginning. You can't grow plants without a source of nourishing light. My plants thrive thanks to the use of Lectinarl's simulated sunlight. But I wasn't informed we were getting new apprentices. That was the practice until Gathal died. Then the Lector sealed his private workshop and gave us these experiments to conduct while he perfected his simulated sunlight. It makes our annual harvest possible. If there were other apprentices, I'd know. I suppose Lectinarl could have more apprentices toiling in his private workshop. He keeps numerous secrets, so what's a few more? You can enter the workshop through the busted vent over there. Ignorance of his rules might grant you some leeway. Lectinarl's private workshop is restricted, but I don't expect you to find anything. If he catches you snooping around, feign ignorance and beg forgiveness. What's the worst he could do? I suppose he could turn you into plant food. Lectinarl is one of the most respected Clockwork apostles currently operating within Lord Set's great experiment. Every novice wants to become his apprentice, and every sentient in the Brass Fortress hopes to partake of his bountiful harvests. That's a long and complicated tale. The short form is that he was one of Sotha Seal's most trusted warrior scholars. When our great master abandoned the Wellspring for other endeavors, Narl stepped in to fill the gap. He's been here ever since. An unfortunate factotum accident happens occasionally. Sometimes the poor contraptions just get overheated and explode. That's why I prefer to work at a significant distance from the machines. Say, a good 30 paces or thereabouts.
Lectinarl's a Clockwork apostle. He must keep meticulous notes. We need to examine them. This is the Lecter's simulated sunlight inductor. And just as we read in his notes, he's using the life force of the most recent apprentices to power the device. So the Seal would never approve of this. Never in a million clicks of the Great Gear. No. If we leave, Lecter Narul will just use Shirhari or one of the others. We have to do something. We have to stop this madness. People shouldn't be turned into plant food. At least not while they're still healthy and vibrant. It's not natural.
So now you know the secret of the wellspring. You see your role in our grand plan. Time is short. The life force of the previous apprentices is nearly depleted.
They're coming for us.
You resist. Your life force can feed thousands. You lash out because you fail to grasp the importance of what I do.
There's nothing to be done for these poor apprentices. The inductor has drained every drop of life from their bodies. But what of Lecter Naril? He cloaks his evil in good intentions. The Lecter lied. He tricked the apprentices and killed them. But the machine does allow the plants to grow and provides food for the Clockwork City. I wonder, what if someone willingly sacrificed themselves to feed the people? You're right. The sacrifice is too great. Lecter Naril turned Sotha Seal's dream into a nightmare. I'll work with the remaining apprentices. Together, we'll find another way for the Everwound Wellspring to help the Clockwork City.
How horrible! Those apostles, all dead?
Not just dead, drained of life to create the simulated sunlight.
Still, it's an amazing device. Lecter Naril's a true genius.
A genius? Look at this. Narl's insane.
Narl's dead, and this work is an affront to Lord Set and everything he's taught us.
I won't argue that point. But you can't deny that Narl accomplished what the Clockwork Mage never quite got around to doing.
This one rejects that path. A life is worth more than a harvest. More than 100 harvests.
This isn't our decision to make. We should go before the council.
No, there's no decision to make. I'm shutting this horrid contraption down right now.
Sunlight.
We're the apprentices of the Everwound Wellspring. We'll figure out a way to save the plants.
You really think so? This one hopes that we are up to such a task.
We're Clockwork Apostles. Of course we can do this. Now, let's get to work.